protecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovative Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas offers an affordable 2-year associate degree with a seamless path to a bachelor's. Located in downtown Minneapolis, students receive free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaching, tutoring, a Metro Transit pass, mentorship, and paid internships, all at Minnesota's largest private college. Ready to turn dreams into reality? Apply now at dfc.stthomas.edu. Doherty Family College. Your journey to success starts here.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 42. Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 61. And Sunday, partly sunny with a high near 66. Step into the magic of The Wizard of Oz at Children's Theater Company, playing now through June 14th, featuring the beloved songs from the classic film, breathtaking stage magic, and a dog as real as Toto. Get your tickets today at childrenstheater.org. That's childrenstheater.org.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut. He didn't cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Karagi to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, it's Friday, and we have our friend, State Senator Mary Kunesh, coming on, and we really appreciate all that she does for the state of Minnesota and all over Turtle Island. Thanks, State Senator, for dropping in again.
Hamatakiape, it's good to be here.
Right on. So a lot of things going on, and, you know, just generally speaking, and it's always great to get an update from you about what's going on. But I know there's like MMIR stuff always happening, and
Always.
and you know, that's maybe start there today.
Sure. Coming up in May is like American Indian Month here in Minnesota. But we also oftentimes started off with recognizing the violence and our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And I was really excited this week to finally get a slate of bills not done like we've passed them at the legislature, but the actual language of the bills together. And I've kind of put together this slate of legislation that addresses domestic violence and supporting ways to support our victims and the family members. It's, you know, probably one of the big bill is Senate File 5209, and that's called Allison's Law. And this comes from the mishandling of the investigation around Allison Lucier, her aunt Jenna. From the minute her niece went missing, or not missing, but was killed, knew that this was not sort of that suicide or drug overdose narrative that too often and for so long public safety would just tie on to the death of one of our indigenous people. And oftentimes the family would say, absolutely not. This was not what the situation was. There was nefarious things that happened. And it was just sort of, brushed under the rug, and the investigation closed without a full, proper investigation. Well, with enough noise, there was an audit that happened this week around that investigation. And Jenna Williams is the one that really brought it to the attention. And they asked the city auditor, Minneapolis city auditor, to look into it. And of course, they found that there were many procedural errors that occurred in that instance, but also seemed to be sort of the MO response to domestic violence, and even including racial harassment. I think the audit had over 49,000 pages of documents.
Oh.
They viewed 75 hours of body-worn camera footage. They interviewed more than 30 persons. And, at the end of the day, they found that those officers kept very inconsistent documentation, especially in the early part of investigation in those cases, when all of the evidence is so crucial, and not taking the situation seriously. And so it was, the audit just was heartbreaking, to tell you the truth. And luckily, there were some recommendations around how to improve police response, ensuring that police officers are more familiar with the background of the case. And this is where it's important to listen to the family and people who knew the victim. And then looking at, past complaints about bad actors towards the victim before responding to that call, and then training around domestic violence. And so Allison's Law, that's Senate File 5209, aims to improve investigations of domestic violence related to suspicious deaths. But I also have 3 other bills that follow this same theme. Senate File 4752 looks at how we need to make sure that we are continuing child support payments even when somebody terminates their parental rights, because oftentimes there is domestic violence or some sort of, awful situation going on, and who ends up, the victim are the children, because they aren't receiving those payments, and the parent that is left with is still with that child isn't receiving those funds, and that oftentimes will result in housing issues, lack of resources to support that child, which has a whole bunch of different complications. And then I have another bill, Senate File 5001, and this one is important because it classifies domestic assault strangulation as a violent crime under state law. Can you believe it is not considered a violent crime?
Jeez. No, I can't.
And we hear about that, instances of strangulation or attempted strangulation as a way to control women. The perpetrator might bring the woman right to that point of almost, death, and then release them and say, this is what I can do if you don't act the way that I want you to.
Yeah.
And then Senate File 5107 is also another bill that enhances penalties for some of those domestic violent crimes. I know this is not a feel happy topic, but we worked on these bills through the entire session. We would have loved to have had hearings on them. This is a short session, so none of these bills have had a formal hearing in our state legislature, but nonetheless, they're ready. They're ready to go, and that will be those are 5 bills that I will bring right from the start when a session begins in our next month. I guess there's 4 bills, but
Is that next year, you said? Or
next year.
Yeah.
We start in January. It's a budget year next year, so we've got a longer period of time to work on legislation. It's after an election year, so things could look very different at the legislature, and we'll see what we can do.
You know, one of the things when you were talking about the Allison bill, I was remembering, and I think you were there. It was quite a few years ago. It was at the Capitol, and state representative, and it really hit me. And I bring this up a lot, and I think we've talked about it before. But she told her kids that I would never leave you, and gave all these things. So if I ever become missing, look for me, because I'm never going to leave you, kind of deal. And I don't know if you remember that, but that really hit me. I think it was State Representative Keeler.
Yeah, I do remember that vaguely. And these are the sort of situations that our Indigenous relatives set up ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think it's been said every Native mom or parent has sat down with their daughter and said, when something like this happens, here's what you need to know, not only for yourself, but for other people, because I hope this isn't still the truth, but in the past, almost every Native woman was affected by some kind of violence or mismanagement in their life.
Absolutely. 1 out of 3 are abused. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio. We're with State Senator.
After 20 years of service, the Metro Blue Line is ready for essential improvements. A multi-year transformation is underway, bringing a better, smoother Blue Line experience. Renew the Blue will preserve and protect a critical piece of our infrastructure investment, helping it remain a safe, reliable, and affordable transit option for many years to come. Learn more about Renew the Blue at metrotransit.org/renew-the-blue.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
There's a powerful story being shared at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Unchi Said So, a solo exhibition by Danielle Seawalker, brings forward Native stories shaped by collective identity, generational knowledge, and teachings passed down through community. Through bold color and portraiture, this work honors the significance of grandmothers in Native culture while reflecting the idea that sovereignty begins at home. On view now through June 6th. Plan your visit today at allmyrelationsarts.org.
Hi, it's Dr. Evan Adams, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, Victor, you better be listening.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we were talking a little bit about the bills that she's been working on. And I know state senator always is a process to start a bill. And then I know the MMIR didn't happen overnight. And so there's a process out there.
Yeah. Yes. It's not an easy process. And sometimes it takes a while to get through legislation, especially when they are controversial topics or information or issues that legislators just aren't even aware of. I mean, that's how it was with MMIR when I first brought that topic up at the legislature. Well, first of all, I had to be educated, and I still feel like I am constantly learning something new around the injustice around the MMIR situation. But also my job, a big part of my job at the legislature is to educate people on unique issues. I'm working really hard on protecting wild rice. And for a lot of people, like this is just an inanimate object. It's just something that grows somewhere. Yes, I love to eat wild rice, but do we really want to legislate how we protect those sort of things? But MMIR was a really big one. And, 8 years later, we're still talking about it. Some of the bills that I mentioned earlier were also some of the recommendations that came out of the MMIW task force report. And so it's constant, it's ongoing, and it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes you get lucky and it does. Other times it takes a lot of educating and then a lot of persuasion as well. And so we're at the point in the legislative session right now where we're kind of starting to see the end of the tunnel. I won't say the rainbow because I don't think we're going to have a pot of gold this year sitting anywhere for any of us. But the legislation takes a while. So we're still working through those. Right now, in the Senate, we are working through all the different omnibus bills. So every committee, Health and Human Services, Housing, Education, Public Safety, we all hear bills throughout the year, throughout the session, and then come up with kind of a culmination of the bills that we think we can get agreement in the House from, and then that we can get bipartisan support on. We put those into an omnibus bill, and then many of those are starting to pass off of the Senate floor. I'm the chair of Education Finance, and I have a very modest, very small omnibus bill that will hopefully address some of the issues in education, the funding education bills. And those, I haven't heard when I will hear that omnibus bill on the floor of the Senate. And once we pass that, it'll have to go over to the House, and the House will have to concur. So we're working towards that. I have that constitutional amendment about addressing and updating the school trust land fund, so we can keep the corpus of that fund safe for perpetuity, but also are we managing it best, and are we getting the biggest bang for our buck for our kids right now? And we think we've come up with a really good solution. So I'll be talking about this through the elections in November, because it'll show up on the ballot, and we need everybody to vote yes on this constitutional amendment. It won't cost our taxpayers any dollars. It won't increase your taxes, but it will increase the amount of the dollars that students are getting per pupil from that fund. And so we've heard a few of the omnibus bills. We've heard HHS. We've heard the the public safety, elections. Yesterday, Republicans brought up a Minnesota Save amendment, and that is the one that has all kinds of restrictions on who can vote and what kind of documentation they have to bring. There was some things around the use of tribal ID. They really want to have those IDs conform with like our driver's license, our state driver's license. But, every tribe has their own unique ID card. It doesn't include all of those things that we have on our driver's license in Minnesota. And so I couldn't support that amendment at all. And of course, you have to have your your ID has to match your birth certificate name. If not, then you have to have a copy of your birth certificate. I think, it has to have that seal on it, which, for some people, it makes it very difficult. And if you weren't born in Minnesota, but you're a Minnesota resident and you have your birth certificate, you'd have to go back to your state. It was just a lot of complications. It shouldn't be that difficult. And so we did pass that off the floor, bipartisan votes. We'll send it over to the House. I'm not so sure that we'll have the House's full support, but so that's kind of what we're doing, getting our omnibus bills ready and having them heard on the floor, sending them to the House. The House is still in a little bit of a kerfuffle, being that they are tied even, and they are not coming up with a lot of agreed upon legislation. The constitutional amendment, I believe, is a full bipartisan support bill. So we'll just continue doing that work from the Senate and making sure that we're putting out really good resources for our communities and the full state of Minnesota.
Well, then we go into when you're done with session, this part-time job you supposedly have is then you go to farms, to schools, and you keep working. And like you said earlier, educating yourself on the needs of the communities in the state.
Yeah, it can be a full-time job if you want it to be, if you let it be. I do like to get out there into the different communities. I'm on the egg committee, so that's why I get out to farms and hear from the different implement dealers and seed people and try to understand the practices that our farmers are using. A lot of them are using really good generative practices on their fields rather than dosing it with fertilizers and pesticides, which is really a positive thing to be doing and knowing. And then, as the chair of education, I want to hear from the schools and from the community around what's happening in their area. So if a legislator wanted this to be a full-time job, it could easily be a full-time job. This summer, I'm hoping for, maybe a little bit of change in how I spend my summer. And of course, it's an election year. So we also have to be paying attention to those elections that are happening. They will make a huge difference in how Minnesota legislates next year, and I'm hoping for the best.
Well, we know DFL and stands for Democratic Farmer and Labor, and one of the things that the big attack on our farmers is the cost of diesel and all that. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing about that and really hopefully affect people and pay attention to who they're voting for.
Right. Well, gas prices are huge. These tariffs that were imposed, our farmers use fertilizer, and one of the very main ingredients is potash. This is something that I learned through egg. But we don't have potash mines here in the United States. I mean, I think we do have some deposits, but we don't mine it. So all of our potash comes from Canada. Last summer, I went up to a conference in Saskatchewan and actually went into a potash mine. Fabulous experience. But Canada, they slapped all those tariffs on these products coming from Canada, which just increased and made it almost impossible for the United States manufacturers who produce fertilizer. The cost was astronomical. So you've got that, you've got the gas, you've got the price of corn and soybeans and all those products and then of course, our farms really relied a lot on migrant workers. to do that work. And that stream has more or less dried up. So our farmers are, you know, in a big herd of trouble. Everything that they do is costing them, you know, so much more.
Yeah. Well, State Senator, thank you so much for coming on. And maybe what we can do real quick is we talked earlier about if anybody needs any help, we'll pop up a number here for Rape, Abuse, Incest International Network, 1-800-656-4673, HOPE. And then National Domestic Violence number is 1-800-799-7233. Thank you so much, State Senator, for dropping in and really doing all the great work you do for our community. It takes a certain person to really appreciate you.
Wopalatanka and Toksha, everyone.
Right on. Hey, Native Roots Radio, Bob Blake next. Bob Blake from Red Lake. This is Native. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas offers an affordable 2-year associate degree with a seamless path to a bachelor's. Located in downtown Minneapolis, students receive free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaching, tutoring, a Metro Transit pass, mentorship, and paid internships, all at Minnesota's largest private college. Ready to turn dreams into reality? Apply now at dfc.stthomas.edu. Doherty Family College. Your journey to success starts here.
After 20 years of service, the Metro Blue Line is ready for essential improvements. A multi-year transformation is underway, bringing a better, smoother blue line experience. Renew the Blue will preserve and protect a critical piece of our infrastructure investment, helping it remain a safe, reliable, and affordable transit option for many years to come. Learn more about Renew the Blue at metrotransit.org/renew-the-blue.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Agajengwa, Destiny Gowe Weni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovative Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
There's a powerful story being shared at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Unchi Said So, a solo exhibition by Danielle Seawalker, brings forward Native stories shaped by collective identity, generational knowledge, and teachings passed down through community. Through bold color and portraiture, this work honors the significance of grandmothers in Native culture while reflecting the idea that sovereignty begins at home. On view now through June 6th. Plan your visit today at allmyrelationsarts.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 42. Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 61. And Sunday, partly sunny with a high near 66. Make it a night to remember at Crooner's Supper Club. Incredible live music, 4-star food, handcrafted drinks, and first-class service, all in the classic supper club setting. Don't miss out. Visit croonersmn.com to plan your perfect night out. That's croonersmn.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert Pilot, and we are here with Bob Blake from Red Lake, the Solar Bear with the Solar News and Sports. And, you know, Bob, Prince was a big part of your life, a few years ago, and I know you have thoughts and how he affected your life, and he's passed on 10 years ago. I can't believe it's already been 10 years. And, you know, I always love that quote that when he was on Oprah, Bob, that he loved living in Minnesota because the cold weather kept all the bad people away. And he was one of a kind. But, Bob, I'm wondering, you know, if you can just tell our audience a little bit about your backstory with Prince and how that came all about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just want to send a big shout out to Melissa Olson of Minnesota Public Radio, who, along with Leah Lem, basically thought up, you know, the story, right? And decided to contact me. So, you know, it was all their work, really. It was, you know, kudos to them. You know, they're great writers. And you know, I just also want to say too that like Melissa knew me back then, you know, knew me when I was working for Prince.
Oh, wow.
And doing all that stuff in downtown Minneapolis and working at the nightclubs. And so, you know, I kind of feel like the reason why this story came out so well was because Melissa was kind of, you know, writing from a firsthand account because she saw all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really easy for me, Robert, because I just had to like fill in the gaps, right? And so it wasn't like I really had to do too much to that story, but you know, yeah, it was a great time in my life. I've always told people, if you ever get the opportunity to fly first class and stay in 5-star hotels, do it. It's a great time. You know, and that was really what I was able to do. And that was what a lot of us who work for him were able to do. And I think, you know, when I look back at that time, and I was just one of many who was able to work with him and who he brought on to work with him from here in the Twin Cities. You know, a lot of us were locals. But I think the important thing that I took away from that was, you know, just what an amazing person he is, despite the fact that he's just this like talented musician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he really had a heart of gold. He really did, a heart of purple, you know, whatever. But he really was like, he was a really good guy, you know, and you know, you know, I said in the interview, he showed us the world, you know, and although we were able to see it through his eyes, you know, there were places that I never would have been able to go to or see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what it takes to be at that level, what it takes to be that great at something, that was something that I also saw was his work ethic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that people don't see. They just see the finished product, but this guy worked like nobody could, you know what I mean? And I think it was that really instilled in me at a young age, because I was like 21 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
I was young, and you know, that really instilled in me, you know, and really showed me firsthand what it takes to be good at something, you know, and it takes a lot of hard work, and nothing is given to you. Because the interesting about Prince too is I don't feel like he took that stuff for granted. Because the way that he worked, the way that he constantly tried to, I mean, he was constantly talking to his band. They were constantly practicing. They're implementing new things. And the one thing about us bodyguards, his security detail, we had to like basically live his life. So if he was up you know, 60, 70 hours a week. We had to be up 80 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
Just to be ready to move when he moves. So, it's those kinds of things that you really saw. And then his attention to detail. This man was amazing at detail.
Mhm.
And that was something that I think I instilled in myself, is because I get people that ask me, Bob, how can you remember that? Bob, how can you do that? Or how can you know, I think it was just that experience that I had with him, that I saw what it took, that really made me conscientious of detail, of little things that you got to cross off, check. No one's perfect, Robert, and
Mhm.
neither was Prince, but I mean, just those habits really turns into just the way you do things, and that was really what the amazing part about working for him is. And the other part is he was a very giving individual, like a lot of people didn't even hear about a lot of the things that he gave the charities.
Mhm.
He never wanted to be acknowledged for the things he did. The generosity and the and the philanthropy he did, he didn't want recognition for it. And that's just to his character, right? He just wanted a better world for everyone to live in, and he thought the best way that he could do it was through his music. And I tell you what, I think he did that, because when you look at the following and you look at the people's lives that he touched, and me being one of them, I just feel like I feel like he accomplished that, and he was truly an amazing human being.
Before I ask you how you started working for him, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was a media guy, and back in the day of Glam Slam. And so I was up on the second deck where only VIPs could be. And I met Christian Leitner up there, and I asked him for an autograph, and he was like, oh man. And he was, but anyway, so we're standing there watching, and this happened, oh, a bunch of times that I was there, because Prince had his own little area where he sat, his own booth up there. And, you'd go, hey, I hear Prince is going to come there. And this was during the Batman era when he did the Batman music. And all of a sudden, he showed up. It was like, and you're part of that, of being a guard. People circled around him and moved him around. And all of a sudden, he'd appear. And 9 times out of 10, I had no idea that he was there until he was there.
Yeah, no, he loved to just come in through the side door, back door, go into a spot where he could sit and just chill, and look at everyone. He loved the people watch, and of course he would then leave. But being around him when he played his music, and there was a couple of times I really forgot I was doing my job, because I ended up becoming a fan and get memorized by his musical talents.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, he was an amazing, and interesting too how he supported the Twin Cities in Minnesota. It was reported, and there was a picture I just saw a day before he passed away. He was at the Electric Fetus buying albums.
Yeah, no, he was all about Minnesota. He was Minnesota, you know what I mean? And I think that was one of the things that made him very special, is that he was out here in the world doing what he was doing, and he was really spreading that Minnesota nice, right? That
Mhm.
Minnesota love, and I just think that was great. It was amazing being around all those, and not to mention, Robert, the individuals that I was able to meet, in the process. I was just a young, native dude from the hood, and like I didn't know how to wear a tie, I didn't know how to wear a suit, I didn't know how to talk to people that were attorneys, that were musicians, that were artists, that were, these professional accountants, you know what I mean? Like, and that was really something that I was able to take away from all that, because Prince put me in front of all those people. And I felt like that really gave me that confidence, or that little extra that I needed to like just go through my professional life, right?
Right.
And 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 it really is the truth. You really do need sometimes that little extra when you're dealing with people. And, there's been many and numerous of times in my life that, I've been in some situations where I didn't think that I could handle it. And then I reminded myself, hey, you toured with a rock legend. You worked for a rock legend and he put you in front of all these really professional people. So you've been here, you did that, you can do this, And so that is one thing that, I am forever grateful about working for Prince and Paisley Park and all of the folks that I was able to share those memories with.
And Prince just totally changed your trajectory, the things that you're doing now and the confidence you have. And sounds like it was a great gift that he gave you.
I got to tell you, Robert, there's a lot of truth to that statement. I don't know what would have happened to my life if I didn't have that experience when I was 21 years old, right? There's all these what ifs, right? I probably would have figured it out eventually, but just being able to be exposed to that life, to be around everyone, to be involved in that, kind of space, the friends that I met through that experience, the circle of friends that helped me as I moved through my professional career, was really instrumental, I think, in, helping me chart a course, that, I feel very lucky to have had this life and this experience. You know what I mean? And that's the truth.
Yeah, that's an amazing. It's just amazing how things change in our life.
Yeah, no, like I said, it was just one of those, one of those deals that really opened up a lot of other doors for me, and I walked through them, and I will forever be grateful for that experience of working for him and working with the people around him.
This is Native Roots Radio, and with Bob Blake with Solar Bear and the Solar News, talking about his work with Prince, 10 years since he passed away. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas offers an affordable 2-year associate degree with a seamless path to a bachelor's. Located in downtown Minneapolis, students receive free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaching, tutoring, a Metro Transit pass, mentorship, and paid internships, all at Minnesota's largest private college. Ready to turn dreams into reality? Apply now at dfc.stthomas.edu. Doherty Family College. Your journey to success starts here.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
After 20 years of service, the Metro Blue Line is ready for essential improvements. A multi-year transformation is underway, bringing a better, smoother Blue Line experience. Renew the Blue will preserve and protect a critical piece of our infrastructure investment, helping it remain a safe, reliable, and affordable transit option for many years to come. Learn more about Renew the Blue at metrotransit.org/renew-the-blue.
Hi,
I'm Tiergan. And I'm Hadley. We're two of the very first listeners, and we're still listening to Native Roots Radio.
I always love hearing that one. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're with our friend Bob Blake with the Solar Bear and the Solar News. Hey, it's time to talk a little solar news here, Bob. I know you got a lot going on. Stuff's happening nationally that's affecting Indian country. And again, a big Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, Robert. One of the first stories that is happening around solar is the U.S. Commerce Department announces preliminary anti-dumping duties on solar imports from India, Indonesia, and Laos. So meaning that the solar panels that are coming over from these countries, right, is basically affecting the supply here in the United States. And so what the U.S. Commerce Department is doing is they are announcing these anti-dumping duties on these solar imports. And what they're going to try and do is, essentially I feel like they're going to try and make it more difficult for solar projects to get done. So I think this is a direct attack on this by this administration on the solar industry. But we'll see how this all comes out in the wash. That's a story on Reuters right now. And then the next story is opponents are spreading unproven public health concerns about solar and spurring a backlash to new installations in Michigan, which is among the top states expected to add solar capacity this year. So there are groups out here, specifically in Michigan, that are basically having anti-solar rhetoric and trying to basically lie to the public about health concerns regarding solar and the solar installations that are going to be happening in Michigan right now. And you do see a lot more anti-solar groups taking shape across the country right now. And this is directly related to this administration and the MAGA cult, I would say. But this is just they're all just very, how can you say, misinformed about renewable energies, particularly solar.
Right. Well, and they're getting their information from somebody that doesn't know. Windmills give you cancer and all those things he said of the first administration, only just to fill his pockets and the coal industry's pockets and big people that gave him a lot of money to run.
Yeah, and the other part about this is, I believe that a lot of this comes from, I just feel like this president and this administration is just trying to weaken this country. And, my opinion, he's doing it for Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin, but because he sure as heck doesn't feel like he's working for the White House and the American people.
And Israel, don't forget Israel.
In Israel, yep. And so, that's my opinion, but we'll find out in the midterms what everybody else thinks. That's what the Solar Bear thinks. And like I said, when this administration does that, this only hurts our country and hurts the public and hurts American people. So I hope that they get their priorities straight there in Washington. Last story, Robert, is advocates call on California Supreme Court to overturn the state's policy slashing net metering compensation for rooftop solar. For a lower court upheld the rules for a second time. So essentially, you have a lot of advocates in California that are trying to advocate net metering compensation for basically homeowners who sell the power back to the grid and get compensated for that, Robert. A lower court said that these homeowners deserve that compensation that they're selling back into the grid. And these are utilities and big utility companies that are basically just trying to gain another 1 to 2 cents, right? But adds up to millions of dollars in revenue for the utility. So that's what I see what's happening here. I feel like what happens out in California usually comes across the country.
Right.
So I can see this happening across the country in different states moving forward. So, but it's great that this lower court is holding the line and saying that these homeowners who sell back their power and get compensated for it deserve that compensation. So I agree with the lower court on this.
Well, and that's attack on Indian country because a lot of our relatives across Turtle Island have solar farms to get power, but also sell it back.
Exactly. And you see the Bureau of Indian Affairs right now, this Doug Burgum in the Department of the Interior, who are saying they're putting a moratorium on, the building of renewable energy on federal land, trying to connect it to tribal land. And, it's just we have a really terrible administration right now. We need to vote these guys out.
Yeah, and it's not only the administration, but it's the people that support him, that he's a pedophile and that he should be impeached and 25. But there's no Republicans that have any backbone out there, that it will only take a couple of them to get the ball rolling. And they're afraid of him and they want to keep their MAGA people happy.
And I think this goes back to the heart of what, Warren Buffett talked about, and we need to get term limits. We need to get Citizens United out of our politics.
Yep.
And those are like some first good steps, because then you'll get people in there who actually really want to do the work for the people. And then, things will actually start getting done for this country. And that's how you make America great again. You don't do it by destroying it like this administration and this president is currently doing.
Boy, the more and more I think about this, it's just, how is this guy making the Bush administration look good? And he is. It's just like, I can't even believe it.
I don't think it was possible, but this administration has got to be the most horrendous to ever take power in the White House. And I thought nobody was going to be able to pass up the Bush administration, but you are absolutely right, Robert.
Jeez. Hey, should we segue? We got like a minute and a half here. Timberwolves kicked butt last night, and you got your hat on. I see it's a beautiful hat. You must have a heck of a hat collection.
I do have a heck of a hat collection. But you are right, Robert. It is great to see Rudy Gobert playing the Joker tough down low. It's wonderful to see the Ant-Man back in action, shooting threes, shooting layups, doing acrobatic shots that only the Ant-Man can do. I am just amazed by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Solar Bear will be there Saturday night at the Target Center cheering them on, and I'm so excited and can't wait, Robert.
That's awesome. And it's interesting too, the Ant-Man, speaking of which, is still, but his knee is still messed up, and he's probably at 70%, 80%, and he's still doing it. And so, and then how about our friends, the Wild? They are down 2-1, but I guess it's a best of 7. And you were saying earlier to me on the side that they are a really good hockey team.
The Minnesota Wild, I believe, can go to the Stanley Cup, everybody. I'm telling you right now. And, obviously we've got, those Olympians on the team. I think that they're looking pretty good. I think they're going to come back on Dallas, and I think that they're going to take the series, and it is 7 games. So I think that they're going to probably go to 6 games, honestly, and the Wild are going to take it.
Yeah, the old person like me remembers the North Stars, and the Dallas became the Dallas North Stars, and then the Dallas Stars, and I'm still upset about that, Norm Green and all that. But let's take these guys out. Let's take the Dallas Stars out. All right, Robert, you've got 15 seconds.
Yep. Well, the Minnesota Vikings took Caleb Brooks last night in the first round of the NFL draft. He's a defensive tackle. We need some help on defense. We have our offense set for next year. Let's hope the Vikings go well. And, that was the Solar Bear with the Solar News.
Yeah, and my Mets have lost 12 in a row, but then they brought the Twins in there, and now they've won 2 in a row. So come on, Twins, let's get it together. Hey, thanks, Bob. That was the Solar Bear with the Solar News, and this is Native Roots Radio signing off. See you next week.
After 20 years of service, the Metro Blue Line is ready for essential improvements. a multi-year